I destroyed my husband, our marriage, and our life together. Never in a million years did I think I would have an affair. I know, we all say that. My husband found out about my awful choices 13 days ago. I set off a nuclear bomb in his world. The only person I've ever truly loved, I basically killed. Our nightmare. I am a teacher and had an affair with a parent at the school. Around December, I was asked if I wanted to head up our new chess club with some dad that I didn't know. I wanted to look good to my new principal, so I said yes. In January, we started texting about the club, how we would get it started and pick the students. Our texts in the beginning were solely about chess in school. We both were annoyed with similar teachers and things, so we would complain about those. For the first 2 months, that's what our conversations were about, complaining about school and things our school should start doing. Our conversations then turned more personal. We shared things from our past, things about ourselves, our likes and dislikes. It was easy to talk to him because it seemed like we had a lot in common. He didn't come off as if he judged me for my past opinions. I should have kept it only to chess school. I shouldn't have let it go any further. He started telling me how much he liked me. We texted every day. I would drive his daughter to and from school, and sometimes he would go too. In the beginning of March, he kissed me, and unfortunately, I didn't push him away. Later that month, he told me he loved me, and I said it back because I thought I loved him too. I didn't. It wasn't love that I felt, but I said it. My husband knows I said it, and he will never forget that, and never forgive me for that, and he has every right not to. I want to say around April, my husband came to me and told me that he was afraid he was losing me to another man. I told him he was crazy to think that, and that I wasn't cheating on him. I remember sitting there during that conversation and having an out-of-body experience. I looked down at myself saying, "What the heck are you saying? You're lying to your husband. You're doing the things he fears. Stop doing it all." I didn't stop. I continued to be selfish. I continued to talk to him and see him. We would hang out in his garage, talk and fool around sometimes. We had sex one time in July. I felt awkward and stopped it, but it was too late. I wanted to stop things but hadn't yet. About a week later, he asked me if I could watch his girls for the day. I asked my husband if it was okay because I would be bringing our daughter to watch them. That's when I detonated the bomb in him. He came home that day and again told me his concerns. He felt that something was going on between the guy and me. Again, I told him there was nothing. He said we were different, and he thought I wasn't happy in our marriage. I don't remember how I brought it up, but I mentioned to him that I wasn't sure if he was in love with me because of things he said to me years ago. He felt horrible. I could see it in his eyes. I watched the girls the next day, and when I came home, he started asking me questions. He had come home early because he was in so much pain. He had looked up my text records and saw how much I was texting the guy. He cross-referenced times I sent him pictures, and I sent the guy pictures. He took his ring off. The bomb exploded. He drove us to confront the guy. He made him call his wife right there and tell her what we had been doing. He then beat the crap out of the guy and drove off. He left the next day and spent 5 days at an Airbnb while looking for apartments. He's told me his emotions are all over the place and doesn't know what he needs to do. I've seen him cry and scream and be in anguish. Friday, he came home, and I left to go to my dad's. I've been there since. I would rather he be home than stay at some shady place or get an apartment too quickly. I come home in the mornings to be with our daughter. I don't blame my husband for anything I did. This was my mistake, my choice. I now have to live with what I've done to him, to our daughter, and to our life together. I want nothing more than to go back in time and take it all back, but I know that's impossible. I want my husband to allow me back into his life, so that I can prove to him how much he means to me. I want to show him that I will do everything to make him happy again, and not hurt, and to be able to trust me again one day. 36 years, I know I've destroyed the person he was married to. He's told me that. He's told me I took his best friend away, the person he would confide in, the person he trusted more than anyone. We are both 35, and we would be celebrating our 15th wedding anniversary on the 15th, together for 17 years. My dad, his sister, some friends, co-workers, one of our mutual friends, my co-worker, secretary, and principal know. They never crossed paths, and there is a possibility they will since I am still at the school. I don't know if the OM will ever come up to the school again. My principal made it clear that the OM's participation at school will change. I'm actually waiting for a meeting to see if I can get out of my contract and find a job somewhere else. If I can't, I will be doing everything possible to avoid seeing the OM if he comes up to the school. I've told my husband the steps I will take to make sure that doesn't happen, and will let him know should I see him, or if he tries to talk to me. I am also in the process of writing my timeline for my husband, so he will know everything. He is a member here. He actually sent me the link to this site to read the just found out stories to try to understand what he is feeling. He also suggested that I join and make a post here. I have started going to IC and have that book on its way. I am no contact NC with the AP. My husband had me call him the Friday after to say goodbye. He quickly hung up on me, so I sent him a text saying it. My principal does know. I had a meeting with him last week to tell him what I had done. He said it wasn't grounds for firing, but I should have asked to be transferred that day like my husband wanted. I spoke with my principal last night asking if I can get a transfer. He told me it was too late for that, and I am held to my contract for the year. He is waiting to hear from his boss about a meeting with me to see what can be done. I don't know what a 204 is, I'm sorry. I am in therapy now, and will continue to stay in it so that I can fix what's broken inside of me. It's something I should have been in a long time ago, but was too ashamed to call. I will do whatever my husband needs me to do. I know the marriage we had is dead. If he chooses to give me a second chance, we will hopefully build a new marriage. I absolutely want to reconcile and recommit. I know that I want to be with my husband. I took him and our marriage for granted. I will be honest with him about my timeline. He asked me to do several things. Write a truthful timeline. Write out what steps I plan on taking to fix our marriage, and explain to him why I choose him after choosing another man all those months. I have already written him a letter explaining why I choose him. I have started to write down what steps I plan on taking. Tonight, I will start to write out my timeline. Update. I wrote him a letter explaining to him why I want to be with him. I told him what and how I love him, how I felt when I first fell in love with him, and how I continue to feel. He feels that I am using his words against him and playing a game, trying to prove him wrong. He also feels that I am indifferent to our world crumbling. I don't know why he feels that. My letter came from my heart. I was honest in everything I wrote. I'm not using his words against him. If I am, then I have no idea how I am. I told him that I am not playing any games or trying to compete. I'm trying to show him how much I love him and want to be with him, and that I am remorseful for what I've done and caused. I know it will be impossible for him to believe anything I say right now. I just hope he can start believing me again one day. I want him to know that I really do want to fix myself and our marriage that I destroyed. I apologize if I've come off as the victim of my AP. I am not, nor do I feel that I am. I did this. I walked into this. I continued this. I told these lies. I am not denying any of that. Yes, I thought I loved the but after talking with my therapist and reading tons of posts, articles, stories, I'm starting to realize that I didn't love him. I loved what I was feeling. He gave me tons of compliments. He told me he loved me. He told me he understood my feelings, anger, frustration, sadness, confusion, on day-to-day things. He told me everything I needed to hear. So I thought I loved him, because I thought he loved me. I thought I loved two men, but I didn't. I was in a bubble with the OM and in love with my husband. Yes, I have trickle-truthed T-Ted. I have been selfish in wanting to spare my husband. I know I shouldn't and can't do that. I don't know if he wants my timeline to include every nitty-gritty thing or like a PG version. I'm afraid to ask because I don't want him to think I am trying to hide stuff. I don't want to write in detail if all he wanted was a snapshot. I want to write it like he wants. I did ask him how he wanted me to send it to him. He wants 2 copies so that he can read it, and I can read the words to him. He brought up a polygraph last night. I've seen it brought up a lot on these forums, so I'm guessing people have told him to do it on his post. I will take one if he asks me to. I will also look into retrieving my texts with the OM. I deleted him and them from my phone after D-Day. I have a meeting on Monday with my principal and his boss. Since we are held to our contracts for the year, they will probably fire me, which is honestly what should happen. I know I have to find some type of job and enroll our daughter in a different school. Update. Here are the steps I have written down so far. I take full responsibility for having an affair. I don't blame you at all for my choices. I will continue to work on self-examining why I made those choices. Why was I so selfish? What is broken inside of me? I will listen to your words when you are hurting and want to talk. I will show you the compassion and empathy that you deserve. I will answer your questions. I will do whatever it takes to regain your trust. If I stay at my school, I will make sure that I never see him. When it comes to school events, I will avoid them if I'm allowed to. If I have to attend, then my coworker will help me. I came clean to her last night. She will help me not cross paths with him and his family. If I transfer schools or get a different job, I won't let any relationships build between me and another man. If at school, I will always make sure there is another person present when I'm around a man. I won't head up any clubs. I won't work one-on-one with any parents. I will always let you know if I do see him or if he contacts me. If he tries to speak to me, then I will walk away. If he texts, then I won't reply and will show it to you. I will continue to read books on how to help you heal, help myself, regain your trust, fix our marriage, etc. I will also continue to read the articles and posts on the SI site. I will take everything in and figure out how I can use it to help. I will hand over my phone so you can check texts, emails, Facebook whenever you need to see. I will forever be thankful for giving me and us a second chance if you choose to. I will continue to attend my therapy sessions. I will work to figure out how to be a better mom for our daughter and a better person for myself. If you allow me back into your life and our home, then I will confide in you when I have any problems. I will not feel ashamed or worry that you will judge me if I'm having problems with our daughter. I will help you in any way I can, in any way you let me. I know that I have hurt you in the most unimaginable way. I know that I have put horrible thoughts, doubts, and questions in your head. I know that it will take a very long time and a lot of actions from me for them to start fading away. If you give me a chance, I will work each day to help them fade. I will be transparent with you on everything. Maybe in time you and I can go to marriage counseling. I can't believe that I did this. I can't believe that I hurt my husband so badly, that I crushed his heart. I can't believe that I changed my daughter's life. I changed my daughter's life. She won't have both of her parents together in her life anymore because of what I did. She will have co-parents. She will have a broken home because of me. How did I do this? I'm not the person I was. I don't know who this person is. Update. I spent yesterday with our daughter. I got us some lunch, took her to the park, and went in the pool just to try to feel a little sense of normalcy, which wasn't really possible because all that kept running through my head was everything I've been reading. That is what I did all night long, along with writing my husband an apology letter. I'm not sure when or if I'll be able to give it to him. I'm going to ask if we can keep emails open to communication about anything. With email, he has the choice to open it or not, whereas text opens up right there for you. As far as the herpes, I know I will come off as being defensive when I explain it. The OBS texted me after her husband told her about us. She wanted to know how long it went on, because he told her it was a one-time thing, basically a ONS. I told her it had been going on for months, and that we had SX one time. She then asked me if I loved him, and I told her that I thought I did during it. She then told me that he has herpes, and asked if he ever told me that, and that she thought I should know. I wasn't trying to paint the OM as this mythical god who could do no wrong, no. I honestly thought she was saying it out of anger because that is something I would think a lot of BS would do. I would probably do something like that out of anger and shock of finding out. I didn't say that to make her look bad. I know that I have destroyed her world too. I texted her again to apologize to her for what I did to her and her family. As far as not telling my husband, I messed up again. My head and world are spinning. I was in self-preservation mode. I messed up. Her text didn't come into my mind. I have a tornado going off in my head of everything I've said and done and lied about. I know none of that compares to what is going on in my husband's head. I'm not trying to make excuses, even though that sounds like one. I'm just trying to say the right thing, without coming off as defensive, if that's even possible. As far as work, I'm going to ask them if I can be transferred or let out of my contract. I know I can't and shouldn't work there. I don't want our child or the other child to hear any rumors. I don't want the teachers to look at them differently. I want to say and do the right things with my husband. I don't want to push him away even more. I've confided in 3 friends this week. They all keep saying that they wouldn't have been able to leave their kid. They would have stayed in the house, which in turn makes me feel like the mother of the year. I didn't abandon my child. I respected my husband's wishes to leave the house. I don't want to be away from her. I'm the one that wakes her up in the morning and carries her out to the living room. I'm the one that gives her baths. I'm the one that sings her 7 lullabies each night. I'm the one that wakes up if she screams. I'm the one that sits with her on the couch in the morning while she twirls my hair around her finger watching that ridiculous show. I'm the one that's missing all of that because of what I did. It is killing me that I can't be there to do any of those things. I've asked him if I could stay in the guest room and he'll only have to see me when I'm cooking something. He said no. I don't want to go back and push him out. Push him into a crappy apartment. I want to go back because I fear that being home will make it easier for him to file those papers because he can't see me making any effort. I fear everything right now, and I don't know what to do. I haven't contacted the OBS again. I gave my husband her number because they wanted to speak to each other. I do want to do better by my husband. I wrote an apology letter to hopefully be able to give him one day when he's ready to let me. I love my husband. I am in love with my husband. I care for my husband. I have caused insurmountable pain in him. I wish I could be there for him. I wish I could tell him how badly I want to be there for him. I know you think I have been concerned with just my own feelings, but I haven't. All I have been thinking about is what he is feeling and going through. I took him and our marriage for granted. It may not have been perfect, but I loved our marriage. I know that's bullshit since you cheated on him. We have spent half of our life together. We had disagreements, never real fights. We had love. We had laughter. We had sadness. We had lots of growing up. We had dry spells. We had amazing times. I had PPD after having my daughter, and my mom was going through cancer. I never got the help that I know I needed. I was depressed and didn't have a libido. I felt awful because I know he always thought I didn't want him, but that wasn't the case. I switched birth control and went on anxiety meds, and my libido slowly came back, but it was too late. I think he always had this thought in the back of his head that I didn't want him. Then I had an affair. I don't know what the point of any of this was. I just need to talk and get some harsh criticism. When we first moved here, our marriage was strained. He was working nonstop, drinking heavily, and we lived in the tiniest apartment ever. One day he asked if I wanted to go to some club. I was excited because he had never asked to go to a club before. I looked it up and quickly found out it was a swingers club. I was dumbfounded and hurt. We talked about it and agreed to just go and watch what it was like. I entered the lifestyle because it was something he wanted to do, and I wanted to make him happy. We then enjoyed watching and being watched. It was exciting and thrilling. I made it clear that I didn't want to interact with any of the men. I only played with the women. I also didn't want him to have sex with any of them. He gave and received oral and used his hands. There was one time I went down on a guy so his wife would do the same, but I stopped it because I didn't want to do that. Then there was one insanely drunken night where a couple, that we were friends with, came into our hotel room, and we all started fooling around. I was very drunk and remember waking up to my husband having sex with the woman. I yelled at him because he knew I didn't want that to happen. I jumped off the bed and cried. We never really did anything again with that, except watching once more. It was very hard to let that go. I brought it up a few times, but felt bad because of how selfish I was during it all. I eventually let it go. Swinging is not something that I wanted, but I went along with it, was selfish with it, didn't want him to screw any women. Enjoyed it with him because I know he enjoyed watching me with other women. My therapist won't be in town this week, so I won't be able to see her again until next Tuesday. I've confided in 3 friends, but I can't truly talk to them because they treat me as a friend and not as someone who had an affair and hurt her husband. They want to be there for me but keep sugarcoating it all, not treating me like they would if I were the one to have been cheated on. I intend to post here a lot this week, if nothing else than just to get shit off my chest. 2 days after D-Day, I stopped taking my meds, anxiety, depression, because I felt that they were inhibiting me from really feeling everything. Before I left home today, after dropping off the first load of my classroom items, I grabbed my meds. I want to start taking them again, and I have an appointment Wednesday for them. Am I selfish for taking them? Am I stupid for not taking them? I feel the answer is yes to both of those questions. Again, I won't have therapy at all this week, so I will be rambling on here. Some past history. Ever since I was a little kid, I had to appear strong. I faked my negative, sad emotions because I didn't want people to know. My parents were messed up big time. My dad was an alcoholic, and my mom had extreme low self-esteem which caused her to be very paranoid with everything my dad did. I will discuss that at a different time. They were always fighting when he was drunk. I've had to call the cops to stop them, beg my aunt to come pick my mom up and get her out so she would stop yelling at my dad. I've had to pull a large knife from my mom's hands as she threatened to kill my dad. I've had to stop them both from slapping each other. I had to a lot of crap for a little kid, There was no one around to help because they chose not to. My brother would ignore my calls and my aunt wouldn't always come. So, I was left to make sure my parents didn't kill each other. I couldn't let people see that. I pretended that my parents were amazing and loving to each other. I didn't want my friends to know that my mom probably should have been in some sort of mental facility, and my dad should have been in rehab. I couldn't let people know that my uncle sexual abused me, because no one would believe me. Of course he gave me that line too, and he was right, because no one did believe me in the family. When my mom passed away 3 years ago, I once again had to be the strong one. Not because I wanted to, but because I had to. My brother was a huge mama's boy. He may be 11 years older than me, but he didn't act like it. Her death demolished him. The whole family rallied around him, giving him words of sympathy and shoulders to cry on, while telling me, "You're the strong one. Your brother can't handle this right now, but you can." No, I can't. She was my mom too. I lost my mom too. Just because I had to be strong growing up doesn't mean I'm not falling apart inside. But I wasn't left with a choice. I also had to be strong for my daughter, who was 2 at the time. I didn't want her to see her mommy crying all the time because she lost her mommy. Every time my daughter brought up her Mimi, I couldn't let her see the tears build up in my eyes or hear my voice crack. I had to hide in the bedroom for a few minutes to collect myself. My husband knew this. He knew that I always had to be the strong one. I had been doing it my whole life. Tonight, as we finished up meeting our daughter's new teacher and checking out her new school, we walked outside, and I had to say goodbye to her because he would be taking her home. He just stared at me with this hurt look in his eyes. I stared back at him but didn't say anything because she was right there. I texted him because I needed to hand something over to him. When we pulled over again, he stared at me and asked, "Don't you feel anything?" I told him that I feel everything all day long, and all I do is cry. But I can't right now in front of our daughter because that's all she has seen me do for the past 2 weeks. He doesn't think I'm feeling any of this because I'm not crying. My old instincts have kicked in and are forcing me to be strong in front of him because I don't want him to think that I want his sympathy or for him to feel bad. I am trying to be strong for him and be there for him because he is the one with the undeserving feelings. I deserve to feel every single thing, I know that. I know this is another thing that I will need to work on in IC, but how do I stop that thing that I have done my whole life? Will he just think that I want him to feel bad for me? A woe is me feeling? I feel that sharing my feelings is selfish of me, because his are the ones that matter right now. Update. Today has been a day filled with emotions and events. I drove home this morning to help get our daughter ready for her first day of kindergarten. We all drove to her school together. I know she was happy for that, even though it was sad. I could see the sadness in my husband's eyes and on his face. We walked her in and sat down with her while she had breakfast. The emotion started to come out. When she was done eating, she sat in her class line. We both stood there just watching her. There was this gap between us, and I slowly inched over just to be closer to him. I cried saying bye to her as we watched her walk away with her class. She was so excited. She had a little nervous look, but that quickly went away. Our daughter is a school kid. She loves it so much. As we walked back to the car, he broke down. In the car, I asked him if I could touch him. He nodded yes, and I held him and cried with him. The ride home was silent. I asked if we could talk when we got home, and he said we could. I told him that I do feel everything, even though it may not seem like it. I explained that I was afraid that if I cry, he will think that I want credit or sympathy for my emotions. I then asked if I could read my ongoing apology letter to him, and he said that I could. I immediately started crying while reading it, reading those words to him, knowing how much pain I have inflicted on him. We then spoke for a little bit longer. I went back to my class to pack up some more things and called my union rep again. She suggested that I call the woman who was in the meeting with us. She is right under the superintendent, to ask if there was any way I could stay in the district. I spoke with her, and she told me about an opening at a different elementary school. I immediately emailed the principal my resume. I then went to a doctor's appointment for my anxiety-depression medicine and dropped my stuff off after. I was on my way back to pack up some things when the new principal emailed me asking if I could come in for an interview. I went straight there, had a great interview with her, the AP, and 2 teachers that were on the team for the grade I was interviewing for. I picked up my daughter from school with my dad. She had a great day. I dropped her off at home and went back to pick up one more load when the new principal called me and offered me the job. I thanked her up and down and took the position. I instantly texted my husband to tell him. He said he was happy for me, but that he feels that my affair had no consequence on my career. I was shocked, but I understand his feelings. I too would probably be a little upset. I texted back, and I know I shouldn't have, that my affair did have a consequence on my career, and I will be walking on eggshells at this new school. I thought getting a job right away would have been a good thing. One less thing that he has to think about. Yesterday afternoon, my husband asked if I could come over so we could talk alone. When I arrived, he said he had written a letter explaining his emotions. It was the most emotion-filled letter ever. I can't find the words to explain it. It was heart-wrenching to see him be so vulnerable, crying while reading, and to hear the words of all that I have taken from him. I sat next to him with my hand on his back and face against his back, crying. After he read it, he spoke for a while, and I listened to him. He said he wasn't sure what he wants, or if he could ever reconcile. I was terrified. He then caressed my face, and I fell into his hand crying. He then pulled me to his chest and held me as I sobbed. He said, "At least you don't have to buy me an anniversary gift. It's Thursday. Or ever again, really." I immediately thought he was going to say that he wanted a divorce. A minute later, he said, "You can come home." And I cried even harder and thanked him. He told me that this doesn't mean anything, no guarantee of reconciliation. I told him I understood. I asked if there were ground rules. but he said that he didn't know he was going to tell me to come home until he said it. I offered to stay in the guest room so he can still have his space. I told him that if me being out in the living room ever gets too much, tell me, and I will go in the room. He went over a few rules regarding work and other men and if I ever run into my AP. I told him that I will do everything he said. He said he has a gut feeling that this is the wrong decision, but he didn't know for sure. I told him that I will work each day to make that gut feeling disappear. This morning, he asked if I ever cried to the OM, and I said no, which is the truth. I then sat next to him in bed and touched his arm. We sat there for a few silent minutes. He quietly said that the images just keep going through his mind and asked how I could do this. I told him that I ask myself that every day, which I do. I rubbed his head for a few minutes, and I think he felt calm and relaxed for those few minutes. I intend to do everything he asked and more. I want to show him that allowing me back wasn't a bad decision. I want to show him that I can be a woman that he can love again. I knew on D-Day how much I destroyed him, but after that letter, it's really kicking in and taking hold of me almost. I haven't blamed him once for my choices and won't. Even though we have been together for 17 years, I guess I had forgotten how much he loved me. The things that he said or acted told me that things have changed from the beginning of our relationship. Seeing him cry, watching the emotions wash over his face, hearing the helplessness in his voice, reading the words he wrote me, that love was always there, I just didn't see it. I wanted actions and words from him. I wanted it all. Selfish. Now, all I want is to take this pain away that I have caused in him. I can and will put the work into helping him, build trust again, help him to be comfortable around me and want to be intimate, do whatever I can to avoid triggers, and help him through them if he allows it. I am starting to write my whys out, or at least trying to figure them out. I feel like I know already, but based on others' comments and his, I doubt myself. I will continue to work through them. He also thinks that I really don't know what I want, which is to be with him. He thinks I'm just feeling that because my life has also gone into chaos. I completely understand what he is saying. I just keep telling him that I do know what I want, and it isn't because my life is in chaos mode right now. I know the road ahead will be filled with the hardest, biggest speed bumps ever, along with potholes and roundabouts. I hate those things, but I am determined to navigate through it all, and hopefully with my husband.